like to listen to?
I'm more into R&B. I'm more into
Really?
like Adele. I'm more into Lana Del Rey. I'm more into.
Why is that? Why is that?
I just like that floetry, soulful music because my dad, he was old school, the 70s, 80s. And so he would always play like James Brown, Al Green. So it's like I like
Music is so dope.
yeah,
bro.
I like YG. I like all this rap. But
I mean
it's
the
like,
ratchet stuff is good
yeah,
for party.
I like ratchet stuff like when I'm at the gym running. But I'm very into that soulful, moving on, heartbreak.
Yeah.
That type of stuff. Because that's like my genre That's my genre of writing, like Peace in the Dark. It's all about that love.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How often do you go to the gym?
6 days a week,
6 days?
for 3 hours from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock in the morning.
Wait, you gotta be kidding me.
Mm-mm.
Can you take me through one of your like regiments?
So when I get home,
Working out.
Okay.
When you're at the gym, when you get there,
So
all
when
the way to the end.
I go to the gym, I'll run for an hour.
Mhm.
So I do 4 miles, and then after that, it's leg day. So then I'll do that for about 45 minutes, and then I'll get back on either the bicycle or I'll get on the treadmill, and I'll start going.
So
for
you're on
another
the
hour.
treadmill for a whole entire hour?
Mhm.
That's amazing because I go to the gym and like I'm very busy
Yeah.
between football coaching.
Oh, you coach football?
Yeah,
I never knew that.
Definitely.
Wow. Okay.
It's one of my passions. In fact, I played college football.
Oh, okay.
Small level. I was actually at Briarcliff University,
Okay.
somewhere in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
in Iowa. But it was my passion.
Okay.
Like in high school, that's what drove me to just be the best that I
Yeah.
could be.
Yeah.
I've gotten so many different injuries, bro, along the way that kind of make me
Dang.
think about it. Like, would I do it again?
And where would you be if you did it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I would do it again.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
of like the different lessons that football taught me along the
Mhm.
way. And it's just like, are you a competitive person?
Yeah.
Not necessarily in sports,
Well-
but like, do you like to win?
I do like to win. I like to create new content, and I like to be original as well. I try to do things outside the box, but then I try to do something that sometimes what people have already done, but then make it my own twist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's get this started.
I'm down.
Show starts in 3, 2, 1. Welcome everybody back to the show, Drippy Faucet podcast. Today I have a very impressive individual. His name is Deonte Towner. As you notice, he is a published author.
Thank you,
I'm
thank you,
very
thank
excited
you.
for you to be here today. You're from
No, thank
Salinas.
you for inviting me on your show. I'm a huge fan. I watch all of your series, so thank you so much. I'm excited to be on
You know
here.
what? That means so much to me. Because anytime anyone is ever down to invest any time into watching anything, I think you can relate to that feeling, right? As a content creator, and people, I mean, you have a lot of people that support what you've done.
Yes.
And anytime someone sends you a message that says, hey, like I bought your book, or I read this poem, and it made me
And
feel
you
this
never
type of
get
way.
used to it. It's like
Really?
every time in the morning I wake up or at nighttime somebody will write me saying, your book encouraged me and inspired me. It helped me out in so many ways. It's just always like, whoa, really? Because it's like you're just writing and you're not really thinking like, I'm going to help so many people. 'Cause
Right.
You're doing it for therapy yourself.
Like you're just being yourself.
Yes, you are. You're just being yourself.
And for a long time, I would say when I was like 19, 20, 21, 22, I wanted to be something else.
Okay.
And as I was trying to be somebody else, I was noticing that I wasn't getting enough support in what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And as soon as I started to be more authentic to who I am, which is what I'm doing currently,
Yeah.
I started noticing more people being like, hey, you're doing something cool. Like, I respect what you're doing. And then it reminded me that the only way that you can be successful, whatever that means to any person, is by being yourself.
And then doing something you love. Because like when I watch your interviews, I can tell you love what you do. And it comes out and it comes to the camera. So it's like, I love that you love what you're doing. Because you're teaching other people to do what you love.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, Salinas.
Okay.
I've heard that it's kind of like the Compton of NorCal or like the South Central kind of type thing. What can you say to that?
No, Salinas has its bad times. You have, it's just like any other place in the world. You have your shootings sometimes. You have your killings. You have your gangs. But right now, Salinas is pretty peaceful. There's not a lot going on when it comes to crime rate. Right now, we've had a splurge of there's a lot of music artists that are coming out in Salinas. There's a lot of SoundCloud artists in Salinas right now. They've actually been collaborating together, having different events. We've been having a lot of restaurants open, so a lot of people from like San Francisco, Oakland are coming to Salinas to eat at these restaurants. So it's like Salinas is rebuilding because we experienced a lot, 6-7 years ago. A lot of my friends have died, but now it's getting better. And so
would you see it as these outsiders are in a sense gentrifying Salinas, or is it more of a positive sense?
I feel like it's more of a positive.
Okay.
Because, Salinas was always on the news for just something different that happened, a killing or murder. But
Okay.
now we're getting highlighted for some of the things that are opening up in Salinas, and people are just like, whoa, like Salinas is a cool place. And it's cool because even, the young teenagers that have lived there they used to say, like, I hate Salinas, I hate this part about Salinas. But now that they're seeing so many people coming to Salinas, they're starting to say, wow, Salinas is, not as bad as we think. And so a lot of people are taking pride in coming from Salinas.
How often do you go back home?
So when I first went to college, I only went back home like for summer, but now I'm actually trying to come home once every couple of weeks, because it's like I realize that people are getting older. Like my grandparents, my parents are getting older, my cousins are getting older, my nephews are no longer 2 anymore; they're older.
How old
so
are
it's
they?
like, I know this is sound. I think
I'm not sure.
this is why I need to go back. My nephew, I believe, is 7, 8, I think. So don't get mad at me if I get it wrong. And my other nephew, Shelton's only 3.
To be fair, I'm not sure how old my nieces
Yeah,
are either.
so
I
I'll
can
get
kind of
slammed.
guess.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I realized people are getting older, so that's why I want to start going back more. So
Yeah.
I just came back, and it was fun.
You're a huge food eater.
Yeah.
Like every time I check out your stories on Instagram, you're eating, bro.
Yeah.
First of all, how do you afford it?
People think these places I go to are expensive. They're not expensive. I'm spending the same amount of money that I would be spending on groceries. So, like, for instance, I went to a sushi bar, and it was like a jet, and so it flew down to you. And so when I posted on Instagram and Twitter, all my friends and people from my community, people from Salinas, and my students were like, "You're so rich, Towner. How did you afford that?" I'm like, each plate was only like $2.50, so altogether only spent like $11. I always get deals. I'm not an expensive person. I like deals.
Yeah. Definitely.
Deals it's all about deals.
What is your favorite restaurant in LA and back at home in Salinas?
So my favorite spot in Salinas, the A31, is Chef Lee's, because it's cheap. I love
Chef Lee's?
Chef Lee's. So SHEF.
What type of food is it?
It's Chinese food.
Oh, really?
LEES. It's
Why?
high end, but because it's cheap and it's good, and it's the restaurant looks fancy. But then if you go into the lunch special, it's only about $10.99. But
Affordable.
You're getting
It's affordable.
you're getting the nice servers, and they're all dressed up fancy, and so it's not expensive.
Okay.
At all.
What
But
about LA?
out here, I don't, I always say, oh, I go to these little hipster places, which I do, but it's a chain. I really love Cheesecake Factory. There was one time in my life where I was going to Cheesecake Factory every weekend for a whole month.
Damn.
It was that bad.
You didn't get tired of the food? Like, you're like, oh my
because
God.
the menu's so
Cheesecake
big.
Factory.
It's so big. And I was literally wearing, like, it got to the point where I didn't even care how I dressed at the Cheesecake Factory, because I felt like I knew everybody. So I would walk in.
You're walking into your house?
Yeah, I would walk in with sweats, and then I would walk in with the trench coat on and a hat, and everybody's like, oh, this is
Here comes Deonte again, the poet.
So yeah, so that's and then my favorite breakfast spot in Long Beach is called the Coffee Cup. It's a breakfast spot, and it's so good. Each pancake's only like $1.50. It's
Sweet.
really, really good.
Shout out to Cheap Food. Go get you some food.
Yeah, affordable.
What college did you go to?
I went to Long Beach State. But shout out to
Beach.
Salinas. I started off at Hartnell Community College first. Did
What?
3 years first.
Hey,
And then-
CC, brother.
Yes, and
CC.
then I did Monterey MPC just for a semester. And then I
Wait,
transferred
so
to
you
Long
were
Beach
in
State.
many different places.
Yeah.
What was that time period of your life like? I mean, it seems like it was very unstable. in a way.
Yeah, because so the thing about Hartnell, if you go to Hartnell, a lot of students in the A31 know that classes fill up fast. And so when classes fill up fast and you want to finish, then that means that you have to go to either San Jose, or you can go to a school in Monterey, and MPC is close. So I just needed a sign language class for 2 semesters, for a semester, and then I just took sign language at MPC.
So what is one thing that you wish you would have known before you entered or started Long Beach?
I wish I knew more about my history, because when you're growing up in Salinas, it's such a small place where everybody knows each other, to where growing up I didn't feel any racial tension. I didn't feel, it was all black and brown all around, and so I didn't really know how Caucasian people seen people of color. And then when I ended up going to Long Beach State, I started to realize, like, wow, there's a big difference, you know, how they view me in the city than in my town. I'll never forget, I was in class one day and I was answering questions, and this Caucasian girl turned around and says, wow, you people are smart. And I thought to myself, like, what does she mean by that? And I realized, like, oh shoot, my skin color. And you know, and so I realized what it means to be a black man in America, because like I said, in Salinas, it's black and brown all around. Everybody's just having fun and loving on each other.
That's so weird how you have to wait till you get to college to feel that division between white America, black America, brown America.
Yeah, because when in Salinas, you're basically going to school with black and brown, and you have your Filipinos and Asians, but we all feel like we're in the same boat. We're all in this together, and then all of a sudden you go to the city and you realize, like, oh shoot, I do have an accent, or I do talk different, I do write different, and so you face all of those things.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a similar experience. There's this guy named Tyler. He was a receiver. He was actually my competition at Briarcliff, and we're hanging out rooftop one day, and he's like, you know what, Jesus, you're the smartest Mexican I've ever met. He didn't mean that in a good way. Yeah. He was basically trying to say that every other Mexican he's met was like dumb.
And it's crazy because a lot of people that say comments like that don't even realize it's insulting. Sometimes it's a backhanded compliment. Like literally, I've met some people that have said things and they don't realize that that was rude because they're so used to just saying whatever they want to say. And then you correct them on it, and then they're like, oh, yeah, why are you getting mad? And you're like, because you're marginalizing my people. What do you mean? Why am I getting mad?
Right. Yeah. It's so clear. But I feel like it's really hard to determine what is the line between being disrespectful and just not knowing what you're doing. And sometimes correcting someone when they don't know what they're doing, you might even seem like the overly sensitive individual, and then they're going to make you out to be something that you're not.
Right, and that's when the hardest part about being a person of color is that you're trying so hard is, I don't want to be the angry black person, or I don't want to be the angry Latino person, but it's like you find yourself having to fight in every level because somebody is saying something about your race. I'll never forget a student when I was at Long Beach State. A kid said to me, he said, he was like, "Wow, Deonte, you don't dress ghetto like other black people." And then I checked him, but everybody else in the classroom, they didn't understand why I was mad. And so that just shows when you have lack of exposure to other groups of people. And one thing that's a struggle is that every morning, sometimes us people of color, we think about race in the morning. And so it's like we have to have two sets of ears and two sets of eyes. So when somebody does something to us, we have to ask ourselves, are you doing it because you're being racist? Or are you doing this because you're having a bad day, or you're just ignorant about what the comment that you're making? Or when we're in a restaurant, you know, a server can be innocent and they take somebody else's order before they take our order, but they didn't mean to do that. But sometimes in my head, I'm like, are you doing this because I'm black? Because we've experienced it so many times. So it's like you have two sets of ears and two sets of eyes, and if you're not a person of color, you will never get that.
You will never understand that. But it's always lurking in the back of our heads. Another example. I'm in college, and my professor, he would hand papers to everyone that was white, and then he would get to me, and every time he would do this. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Nice. But he would consistently like throw it at me, and I was like, dude, what the is this all about? Maybe it was a microaggression. I'm not sure what it was. I never called it out because, again, I was just like, I don't want to seem like I'm like the little crybaby in class.
And it sucks because, but at least, I always say, at least you experienced all this so that you can teach your students how to be ready for college. Because they don't realize the microaggressions they're going to face by their professors that have biases towards black and brown.
It's going to be tough. But I feel like when you're from the hood, or when you're a person of color, or you're black, we're born with innate resiliency. Our generations before us have struggled so much that even though they are passing on all of the negativity that they've lived through, they are also passing all of the experience that they've acquired through this struggle. Right? So as much as we are resilient, we are also broken. So I hope that we can take the steps that we can take, whatever step that may be, to heal our hearts, heal our souls, and heal our minds. 2019, what is the most curious thing you're about, whether it be small or big?
One of the most curious things I'm about, I would say, with my school next year, because now I'm a part of the the culture committee. And what I was doing, I was head of the restorative justice program at our school, and so now I'm on the committee for the culture committee. Just wondering how far our students are going to go with receiving, trying to do something different in the community, because I feel like a lot of students in the hood had that. Sometimes that mindset is, it is what it is. It's always going to be like this. But trying to shift that mindset to saying like, no, you can become an advocate. So teaching more advocacy in my classroom. So I'm excited about that. And also next year I want to teach more children's literature, and like teaching like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and looking at what does this mean in the bigger scheme of things. Because sometimes students, they know how to read something, but they're not looking at it deep enough to figure out what does it mean as a whole. So what does it mean that Goldilocks was able to just go into the Three Bears house and just take all their stuff? How would that play out now?
Right.
If the police showed up, would the bears get shot, or would Goldilocks get shot? And I'm creating a narrative that's always been happening in America.
Okay.
And showing them that reality and exposing it to them, so that they can be aware of the world that we live in, and how they can start changing the world they live in, so they don't just settle and continue this cycle of bodies getting killed on the street.
Yeah, I think that's so hard, bro.
Yeah.
To change the mindset.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I live in it, I'm part of it, and I'm currently trying my best to kind of escape that same narrative and the cycle of poverty.
Yep.
And I'm really happy that you're trying a different angle, especially by bringing in a child's tale. And like, my question is, like, how rigorous can that be, especially in the high school classroom?
Yeah. And it's pretty rigorous, because like I said before, students, they can read something, but they're not looking at it through the lenses. So for instance, in college, you learn how to look through things in lenses. Like, you look at it through a religious lens, or you look at things through community builder lens, or you look at things through advocacy, social justice lens, or you look at things through a portraiture lens. All these different lenses, but a lot of our students don't realize that. Like, so if I say, oh, what does it say about, people of color, or what does it say about communities that have been oppressed in the world? And they're just looking at me like, what do you mean by that? Because they're just used to saying, this happened in the book, and that's it, done.
Like, find the information,
like,
write it down.
Or even like when we look at Romeo and Juliet, I wish that we taught Romeo and Juliet senior year, so we can look at, the kids already know what happens, but I want to look at it through a psychological aspect of it. Like, what does it mean to love someone, and all of a sudden, 10 minutes later, you're loving somebody else? So it wasn't love at all, or was it just lust? So looking at things like that, because when you're a freshman, you have relationships with people, but senior year, you've kind of went through, and so I feel like Romeo and Juliet, it's more like a senior tale, because you can kind of start looking at the psychological aspect of it all, and seeing the things of what can happen in your life when you're only ran by emotion and not logic.
Okay. It might be an obvious answer, I'm not sure. In your opinion, what is the difference between lust, love, liking, loving?
Lust is, that's a hard one. Because people always tell me stuff like, do you believe in love at first sight? That's hard, because I love you, but what do I love you for? I love you because of your looks, but do I really know you? Because what happens is, especially with, I'm not going to say with teenagers, it happens with adults as well. We see somebody, we create this narrative of who they are, and we're like, okay, she's successful, or he's this, and she's that, and he's this. And then when you get to know the person, you're like, oh, okay, you're not who I thought you were. And then we become heartbroken. They didn't break your heart, you broke your own heart, because you didn't take the time to get enough to invest in them. And now what we have is social media. So I'm looking through your Instagram, and I'm just like, oh, dang, okay, I like this person, I can see myself with this person. So I'm creating a whole new life with you, and you don't even know
without
yet.
you.
Yeah, and so then I slide in your DMs, and then we hang out a couple of times, and then as months go along, I'm realizing, like, this is not gonna work. So it was all lust. I just wanted you, because I thought that's who I envisioned you to be, but you weren't. But love is, I love you regardless of your flaws. I love you because nobody's perfect, and I love you, and I'm willing to put up with certain things. That's how much I love you. Lust is like, you're not who I wanted you to be.
Okay.
And I was only going after looks and not really who you really were deep down inside.
Right. It's crazy how we create these false narratives.
Yeah.
Like these dreams in our own minds, and we start. I mean, in a sense, I think it's cool. It's healthy to create your own reality in your own mind, but it's also really important to, like, really not project that onto another individual.
Yeah.
Because now you're, like, falsifying the very existence of Deonte Towner.
And and sometimes that person feels like they have to be who you want them. And if they're not a strong person, they're literally trying to cater to you. Because they know that's who you want them to be. Right. And that's not healthy. And I find that in a lot of relationships when I talk to different couples and counsel them, that one person feels like they're being something they're not. And that's when depression kicks in, because when you're depressed, that means you're trying to be somebody that you're really not, and your body becomes to get tired and exhausted because you're not living out your truth. And it's important to live out your truth.
Definitely. Beautiful. What is something that you failed at in the past that is not, like, people commonly do not know about you? As long as you're comfortable sharing.
I'm trying to figure out, because I failed at a lot of things. I failed at putting myself first, because I was the type of person growing up where I would always put others before me, and sometimes I failed at loving myself. Sometimes I can appear, I shared this at a conference like 2 months ago. You can appear, one way, like you're all self-confident. At the end of the day, you have insecurities on the inside as well. And so sometimes I feel like I fail myself. And sometimes I fail myself because in the past, I would just let anybody in my life. But then I realized you can't do that, because you end up getting hurt by just letting anybody in your life because you're trying to help them out.
Who's worthy? Who's worthy of entering and getting to know you intimately?
Somebody that respects me. Somebody that sees my worth as I see it. Someone that is gonna help me build and to be the person that I'm trying to be. Somebody that's gonna grow with me. Someone that's not gonna tear me down. Someone that's not going to take their issues and anger out on me just because they're not having a good day. Someone that's secure enough to be proud of me even though their life is not going as good as they want it to be. Someone that can just be happy and be there and supportive, but not just supportive, but actually doing their own thing as well.
Definitely. Have you ever read All About Love by Bell Hooks?
No.
It's a beautiful book.
Okay.
She gets into the depth of love, and especially like as males, we're socialized to love in a certain way that I think is not enough. But I'm speaking for myself.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking for you nor the community, nobody. I'm talking about myself.
Comment section. What do you need?
Right.
Yeah.
Patriarchy.
All the trolls. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But one of the things that she mentioned is that respect is a pillar of being in a loving and honest relationship, right? And that's something that you touched upon, and it's like, dude, respect is everything in the professional world, in the world of love, in the world of friends, in the world of everything, right? Like, moving forward, like, obviously, like, I still hang out with people that don't necessarily respect me as much as I can, but that's because we go way back.
And you learn how to meet people where they're at.
Yes.
Most
importantly.
Yeah, and then you know who that person is so they can't hurt you, because you learn how to treat them accordingly. So you know what to say, what not to say around them, because that's how you build a relationship with a person. You know what to say, boundaries.
Exactly. But moving forward, like, everybody who I meet, it's a must.
Yeah.
Like, if you disrespect me, especially as an adult, I'm just like, you gotta go.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that if I ever disrespect anyone, please let me know. If you have to go around talking to other people about what I'm doing, just let me know, and I'll address it right away, and I'll try my best to change it.
And that's growth right there. Being able to put out your own flaws and say, hey, if I offended you in any kind of way, just let me know. I'll apologize. We can talk about it, because I don't want to hurt nobody else in the future.
For sure.
And that's how a lot of people should be. But we live in a world where everybody's calling each other toxic, and nobody's actually taking their own inventory of how could they add on to that toxic trait, and how they can get rid of it. But instead, we're looking at everybody else. Because I put on Twitter, I'm like, if everybody's calling each other toxic, then who's the toxic one? You
right.
know what I mean?
We're all
everybody
just toxic.
Can't be toxic. Everybody can't be a cheater. Everybody can't be faithful. Like, somebody has to take ownership and say, you know what? I'm this way, I'm working on it, and I'm trying to move forward. But a lot of people don't like to look at themselves in the mirror.
That's tough.
And a lot of people don't want friends that will call them out and be accountable.
Yeah. When was the first time that you were really able to be self-analytical, look at yourself in the mirror and say, this is what I gotta work
I would say when I moved out here. Yeah,
What year was that?
2013.
How old were you?
I was 21 or 22.
More or less.
21. I was 21 and I moved out here. I was just always so used to the Salinas way of living. I wasn't used to, all the tension in the world. Because I feel like when you grew up in Salinas, there's issues. I'm not, like I said, I'm not speaking for everybody in Salinas, but you do have your issues. But I feel like when you move to Southern California, it's more in your face, like with all the marches and with all the protests, Black Lives Matter, police brutality, all these things that people face. And I didn't understand why some people feel
all this friction in society.
Why is there such a divide? And then I started having other people. One of my friends, she's Nigerian, and she explained to me some of the race tension and the race wars that she experienced when she was in high school growing up in LA, and the history of the LA riots. Because you grow up watching Boys in the Hood, but then when you're actually here and you actually see some of the things that you see in movies, like this is real, even though I knew it was real, there's something different when you actually start experiencing. That's why it's so hard for me to watch movies like Don't Be a Menace, Boys in the Hood, because it's like working at Locke, you're seeing some of the things that are happening. Or when I read one of my favorite books, House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros, you're seeing these characters every day as your student, and it's exhausting emotionally because it's sad. Some people are just watching this stuff and they don't realize that this is actually going on in LA or other parts in the world.
Do you see yourself in your students?
Yeah, because I see my students wanting to be something greater, but not really seeing it in real time. They see it on TV, they see it on TV, but those influences that they want to be like, they see it in me or other teachers. Sometimes they don't see it in their neighborhoods. And I can see that my students want to be something great, but they're trying to figure out, how can I, be great? How can I get out of here? How could I, be all that I want to be if I don't see it around me? And so always trying to still hold on to that hope that I had when I was a kid.
What did it take for you to notice, I can really do some dope ass?
I realized I had to sacrifice who I wanted to be. Like when I was growing up in Salinas, I really wanted to party. I wanted to do all the things that my friends were doing. But then my mom and dad would say, you literally have to sacrifice for, and Eric Thomas even said that you have to sacrifice who you are for who you want to become. And who I wanted to become was, a pillar in the community and underprivileged communities, and, being able to advocate for them, being able to reach certain spaces that they may not necessarily have access to yet, but they will as time goes on. I would say my students are going to reach where they want to be in life as time goes on, but they just have to be patient and knowing that education is their way out. That's why I've been pushing hard for college, and people always say college is not for everybody. Yeah, that's true. Then as teachers, we must try to figure out a different route for them so that they don't get caught up in what's going on in their neighborhood. Because it's so easy to get caught up in what's going on. And that's the worst thing. I don't want something to happen in their neighborhoods. I don't want them to get killed and not get that phone call, town or so-and-so died. That's the worst thing a teacher can ever hear from.
Last year, actually, unfortunately, there was this girl here on campus, freshman, and she was murdered in broad daylight. And it was really just crazy for us to experience, because it's people die every day, but when it's a close child, it's just kind of why?
Yeah.
Why this? Why that? And you always have to ask these questions, and you start thinking why couldn't an older person go when they're a little bit closer to death and more ready to go? Yeah. But it's just the reality of the situation, and it just overcomplicates being a teacher in this area.
And people don't understand that. No. People that teach in affluent schools will never understand how it is, because when you're teaching at schools like that are underprivileged, you're their everything. You're their mom, their dad, their brother, their sister, their cousin, their brother. You're everything to these kids. They don't have that support system. Some of them don't have that support system at home, and a lot of their parents are working multiple jobs to survive, and so their parents are doing the best that they can do.
Definitely. Let's take you back to your teenage years.
Okay.
A little bit.
Okay.
Did you feel understood or did you feel misunderstood?
I felt misunderstood.
Why?
It's funny because to the kids at my high school, I looked like the popular guy, but they didn't understand underneath all of it, students would, like, when nobody else was looking, would say mean things to me, call me derogatory names, made fun of the way I dress, made fun of the way I look, made fun of the way I carry myself. Oh, you're this, you think you're better than us. But it's like, no, I just work. Right when I turned 16, I got a job on my birthday. Like, I wanted to make my own money. I got bullied very bad. I got jumped before by a couple of kids. I got called names in class, and my teachers didn't do anything about it. They just continued on with the lessons. But to everybody else, some of my friends, because I didn't confide in none of my friends really. I told my parents about it, and it got really bad to the point I told my parents, I don't want to be at this school no more. I hate this school. Let me go to another school. And my parents are like, no, like, you're going to stick it out. You're not going to let your haters, be satisfied that you've left somewhere else. And so I'm so glad that my parents taught me that you can't keep running from your issues. You can't keep running from your problems. Right. You got to face it head on. And so by senior year, everything started picking back up again. I ran for homecoming king. I did not win. I lost to a football player.
What a surprise.
I should have won. But it was a good experience. I had my roller coasters. But I never felt understood by people. I never felt that they really got me. They'll say, oh, I got you. But I felt deep down they didn't.
I feel like that's so crazy how our parents love us, regardless of whatever steps they took to take care of us. We always, maybe, do you think it's like a teenage thing where you're just so rebellious deeply biologically that no matter what you do or no matter how people treat you, you're always going to feel like you're insignificant, like nobody cares about you, like you're not enough, like you're ugly, like you're too skinny, like you're too fat. Do you think that's an internal thing, or do you think that's like a social thing that we're just constantly watching, whether it be on social media, on TV, etc.?
I think it's both, but I feel like we have to start learning how to regulate that and ask ourselves, what is causing me to be insecure? What is causing me to feel this way? What do I wish I had, but I'm never going to have? So if I never get that, am I going to feel insecure when I'm around that type of person? Am I going to feel small? So you have to start learning your triggers. So you learn how to kind of balance it out and say to yourself, okay, Deonte, you're having an insecure moment. Calm down.
Yeah.
It's not that person's fault. And if you don't know how to regulate that, what you'll find yourself is becoming a bully to other people and becoming nasty and mean, and that's not what. Yeah. And then when you're a teenager in high school, that's what it is. You have a group of people that feel insecure about themselves, and so they pick on people that are confident about themselves, and then they make that confident person feel insecure. And it's not just with teenagers, it's with adults too. No shade.
Don't get us started.
No shade. But it's a throughout your whole life. It's a battle that you have to you're continuing facing, that you're trying to regulate.
Yeah. My biggest challenge in regulating this are my emotions.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm talking about when I'm at that brink of just, like, exhaustion and popping, at that point, my brain and my logical side is, like, gone. It's out the window. Now it's just my emotions. And my emotions, like, whether it be, like, anxiety or whatever else that I'm feeling, it grabs me. And I'm, like, trying to think through it, and I'm like, dude, relax, take a breather, do all these different things. And sometimes no matter how hard I try, the emotions are just so strong.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult to try to remanage that and say, like, you know what, I'm a gem.
Yeah. And you have to learn, you have to face childhood trauma, because if you don't, it's going to carry into your adulthood. And especially being a teacher, trying to help these other students heal with using different pedagogies and trying to become more authentic and open to your students, is that what happened is, if you don't take care of your trauma, what's going to happen is a student's going to call you a name somebody else used to call you when you were a kid, and then that's going to trigger in something, and all of a sudden you're going to see yourself on CNN news, student and teacher get into a fight because the kid called the teacher a blank blank blank, and he ain't going to ever be a blank blank blank, and then that will trigger something, and people don't realize that's how strong trauma.
Like the
PTSD.
Maywood teacher. Do you remember that?
Oh, which one? Okay, well,
the Maywood teacher was the black teacher, the 60-year-old guy.
Oh, okay.
Where the kid was just continuously calling him the N-word.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, you're not familiar with that story? So this teacher, he tried to kind of tell the kid, like, hey, stop, like, that you're being racist, like, I need you to get out. And the kid was just grilling him, like in the worst way possible.
Yeah.
to the point where this teacher got really close to the kid, took out his cell phone, and started beating his ass with the cell phone at his face.
Oh, wow.
It was all caught on camera.
And this is a sad thing. There's so many things that happen in this world that is crazy that there's so many stories like that. I'm gonna search that up tonight.
Yeah, it's probably on Twitter, bro. Everything's on there.
Yeah. Ooh, okay. Wow. Yeah.
How did you? Whether I imagine it wasn't during your teenage years, because teenage years are very tumultuous. Probably more in your earlier 20s. How did you learn to accept yourself?
I think I learned how to fully accept myself when I was about 25, and I'm 27, yeah.
Not too long ago.
Yeah, 24, because you have to realize you have to accept everything about yourself. Like my students always say, "Mr. Sean, you got a peanut head."
Yeah,
and
so what?
Yeah, and then as time goes on, you realize, wow, I love my peanut head, or your ears are, because think about it, is teenagers will point out every insecurity about you, and if you're not secure, you have to learn. You have to learn to love yourself, appreciate yourself, realize somebody out there loves that trait about you, and it's not even about somebody else loving it, it's about you loving that about yourself. And that's when I began to love myself fully. And it's crazy, you can love yourself so much to the point you're just like, I don't need nobody. But at the end of the day, we need other people in our life, so we can build with one another and love one another and help each other grow.
Yeah. Well, that's actually like very, very impressive. Let's talk about your book a little bit.
Nice, okay.
So I just want to start with maybe it's a cliche question or whatever, but like, what inspired you?
Okay.
What inspired you to write your book?
So that's a lot of people's questions on social media. They're like, who are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah.
I was reading it, and it's kind of like evident that you was going through something.
Yeah. And so my dad had a stroke a year and a half ago. And I've been wanting to write a book. A lot of people don't. Okay, so I took a 4-year break off social media. So I used to have 80,000 followers, but I took a 4
Are you serious?
Yes. So I took a 4-year break. And then I barely got on Instagram. I barely made a new Instagram in May of last year, and then I barely made my Twitter in November of last year. And so, so a lot of people liked my tweets and liked the things that I posted. And so when my dad had a stroke a year and a half ago, I realized life is short. Like my dad almost died. He didn't die, praise God, but he almost died. And I was like, well, I need to write this book, because if I were to pass away, I want people to still learn about my life, of the things that I've been through. And so, and people always say, who's the book about? Who's to say it's about a person? And it can be about anything. It can be about the things I struggle with, things about the things I love to do. It can be about my exes. It can be about anybody. But the cool thing about this book is that when you're reading it, I remember one of my students, she said to me, she says, oh, Town, I'm about to get all the tea. When I read that book, I'm going to know your life. But it's funny because when somebody's reading that book, they're not really looking at my life. They're actually reflecting on their own life. And I think that's the power of the book. And the cool thing about this book is, if you didn't notice, I didn't even add in the words like he or her. It made it to where you're able to fill in that blank for your life. So when you're filling out that blank, you're like, oh, wow, this happened to me, my best friend, or her, or this guy, or them, or they, or it goes to where you can interpret it your own self.
Definitely. As I was reading through the pages, I was like, dude, this is hella relatable. I was like, and it's such a simple way to read that it's kind of like, dude, anyone that has passed a certain grade at school should be able to understand what's going on. But I love how you talk about letting go. I love how you talk about growth. You talk about like just moving forward. And I think
that's the last chapter.
Thing.
Yeah, letting go is the last chapter. Moving on. Letting go, Sunday.
Right.
And I made it as Sunday, because Sunday is like the day where it's like a Sabbath day for people that just want to make time for themselves, and that's the day that you kind of just self-reflect about your life and start letting things go and the things that you learn in life.
One of my favorite poems was the world. Wait, let me see. What is it? You have the power to change the world. Don't let it change you.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's been a lot of pressure from the world to change who you are? And furthermore, has it changed you?
It's
not
hard.
A trick question.
It's hard because you want to still stick to what you believe in, your values, your beliefs, and so with that, you have to be unwavering, but you also have to be open to where there's all these different types of people in this world. And don't just be around people that are just like you, but actually be around people that aren't like you, because that's the only way you're going to grow. That's the only way. And for me, I'm a firm believer in Jesus Christ, and so in his journey, he hung out with tax collectors. He hung out with the people that sold their body. He hung out with different people, all different people, and that's what Jesus wants us to do. He wants us to love everybody, like no matter what your background, your orientation, no matter about what you believe in, no matter. Like one of my close friends, he doesn't believe in God, but it's so funny because when I'm going through something, he says one of the scriptures that I would say to him and doesn't even realize it's a scripture. So that's what I'm saying, is that you never know who you're influencing, and then you never know who can influence you back with their kind words. But at the end of the day, God just wants us to love everybody, like no matter who they are. Just love.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you just never know what somebody's going through.
Right. So I love the fact that you basically said, like, don't let it change you, but we must be flexible.
Yeah.
Right? Otherwise, we'll be broken like a pencil.
Yeah.
This is not flexible. You don't want to be like a pencil because you're going to be broken.
Yeah.
You want to be like a flexible pencil. Or whatever, the little trick. And in being flexible, we're able to grow and change and we'll be able to hang out with different people who are going to broaden our perspective. Or who knows, maybe you'll broaden their perspective.
And the cool thing about it is when you hang out with people that aren't like you, they can teach you something about yourself that your friends that you always hung out with seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They may, and then that when you go home and you do some self-reflection of like, oh wow, I didn't realize, like you said, I didn't realize I was this type of person, but I'm gonna take it in because if this is gonna help me grow, then I'm willing to take that next step.
Definitely. I mean, we were talking a little bit about God, so might as well jump into that conversation.
Okay.
How do you feel comfortable when people bring up the topic of like, let's discuss religion or let's discuss God? What's your comfort level around that subject?
So me and my friends, say if we're all going out to eat or dinner, one thing we don't talk about is politics or God.
Okay.
But what we do is, like, say if my friend does need an encouraging word, then I will tell him about what God can do and how, I'm just trying to encourage him through scripture and talk about my testimony, about my life, how God helped me become a more confident person, just different things. But one thing I will never do is get in a debate with somebody about God, because at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, and this goes for anybody's beliefs. You have to ask yourself, when somebody's asking you about your beliefs, if you're a Muslim, if you're a Christian, if you're atheist, if you are an advocate for certain communities or whatever. So when somebody's asking you a question, you have to ask yourself, are they asking me these questions because they want to try to quote unquote prove that what I believe in is wrong?
For sure.
Or are they asking me these questions because they really have an open heart to it and they really want to learn?
Right.
So if I feel like you don't want to learn and you're just trying to have a debate with me, then I'm not going to do that debate, because there's somebody else I can be loving right now. And there's somebody else I can be encouraging right now. There's somebody else that I can reach right now. But I'm not going to just sit here, because what happens is when you get into debates with people that aren't trying to grow, then what happens is they suck out all of your energy. And so what you do is you go home driving mad at them and mad at yourself, and then you're taking a shower mad and you're still arguing with them in your mind. And I
could have said this.
Yeah, and that right there, and I realize that's what it means to guard my spirit, guard my mind, guard my headspace, guard my energy, is that I'm not going to match your energy. Either you're going to match my energy or we're going to continue moving on, because at the end of the day, I got a lot of stuff going on in my life, and I don't have time to argue over something that I believe in and that you don't believe in, you're not trying to believe in.
Well said. I do strongly believe in the power of dialogue. And I'm not really too much into debating anymore either.
Yeah.
And I think it has a lot to do with that fact of, like, when you enter a space of communication and all the other person wants to do is beat you, now we're not really thinking about how can you learn from me. Right?
And you also have to realize some people haven't dealt with the things that happened in their past. So sometimes when people are arguing with you, it's not they're mad at you. It's that they're just mad and they just want to argue with somebody. And so they just want to just throw off on you, and they just want to make you mad just because they're mad. And you have to realize misery loves company. And that goes very deep. So every time you have to ask yourself, why is this person always arguing? Oh, because they don't have a happy life. They're not happy and they're not at peace within on the inside. And so you have to be able to pick up on people like that.
Right.
That you have to discern people like, okay, something in your life isn't right, and so I'm not going to allow you to argue with me, because in order for you to argue with me, I have to give you permission, and I don't give you permission to argue with me. and I'm going to remove myself, and I'm going to say, I hope you have a great day, have a blessed day, I love you, but my brother and my sister, I got to go. And then take off, go out your day.
Right.
But I'm here for you if you need
definitely,
me.
Definitely. I used to be a severe debater. Like, I wanted to be right so bad. And I still want to make my point at times when I think it's necessary to make my point. But I'm really trying to get more into the art of let's just talk about it. Just talk about it.
Yeah.
You don't have to believe in what I'm saying, or do I have to believe in what you're saying, but let's just talk about it. Because we could move so much further collectively as a society. In regards to everything. I mean, politics and God is one of those biggest divides.
Woo! Yeah, because when you start, and one thing that's hard is that when you start talking about social justice and start talking about political change, you're talking about it, but then you don't want to come off as though you hate a certain group of people. And then you're like, but I got to be loving. So that's why it's so hard to mix those two together, because you want to be able to say your truth, but then you don't want to make anyone feel. But then history says, well, they've always made us feel. So it's just like it's like this voice in your head, like, don't care what they say, but you have to love them. But they've always made us feel this way.
Right.
But yeah.
But you know who's the perfect mix of those two things?
Who?
Cornel West.
Okay.
He'll talk to the opposition and be like, my brother, I love you. But you know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's genuine. Like, he's not trying to like just get in your head and make you feel like all wishy-washy so he can like beat you in an argument. Like, he genuinely believes in like the power of God, loving everybody in Jesus Christ and all those different things. So he really truly believes that he is your brother in spirit, and therefore he loves you. But he truly believes that logically you're also partaking in a system that is completely disenfranchising hundreds of millions of people around the entire planet. So I mean, if you're not too familiar with him, like, I'll definitely read up on him.
So I have to look at that
YouTube,
and then this Cornel.
Trust me, just YouTube him. He's one of the most powerful, eloquent, amazing speakers I've ever had the chance to like look on YouTube.
Okay.
Like, Cornel West, please, if you ever watch this, man, just come on one time, man. So you are a youth pastor, is that right?
No. I am a youth leader I was a youth leader at my old church growing up. And then my aunt, she was youth pastor, and then I was assistant to the youth pastor. And then now that I moved out here in 2013, I volunteer and work with the young people. So I teach Bible studies in the summer at Cottonwood Youth, and then I also am a volunteer at Cottonwood Church, and then I help out with the young people, whatever they need me to do on that Sunday.
How'd you choose that church? Because there's like thousands of churches. So how do you choose the right one for you?
So one thing I like about Cottonwood is that they're very focused on underprivileged communities of color, and so they actually go to their houses. They actually build like different hub churches where if you can't make it to church because you live far away, they actually come to your residence and teach you about the Word of God, about Jesus Christ. And they give back to these underprivileged communities. They buy them food. They make sure they're clothed. They have a lot of AA meetings for people that are struggling with any addiction that you're struggling with. They talk to the sex workers and let them know that you're loved. Don't allow anybody to ever make you feel less than. They buy them care products. Just different things that I just love how they love on people, and they go on the street to where people are selling drugs and let them know, like, hey, is there anything you want me to pray with you about? And sometimes I just want to have a conversation with you, and they're looking at, you want to have a conversation with me like I'm a drug dealer, I'm a sex worker, and they're like, no, you're not that. You're more than that. You know, you're a child of God, and God loves you, and I love how they're able to just speak into people's lives, and that's what made me choose Cottonwood.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Did you kind of go through like a trial and error type thing where you like went to this church, you went to another one?
So, so I experienced that. So what happened was first I grew up in my church. I grew up Pentecostal. That's Church of God in Christ. It's one of the largest black church organizations. I grew up Pentecostal. But then as time went on, some of my students, they started going to a church called Cottonwood in, I believe, Los Alamitos. And so my thing is, I'm like, okay, that'd be cool if I see my students at school, and then I also see them at church. And so it's like we have that fellowship. And so then I talked to my pastor from my old church when I started attending Pentecostal church at Long Beach. I told him, I was like, hey, Pastor, I feel like God is moving me to a different church, and I feel like he's calling me to this church because, and I gave him A through Z. He was very supportive of it, and then he said, you can always visit this church anytime you want. So basically on first and third Sundays, I work at the church with the youth, and then we're going to church camp this year, so I'm one of the youth counselors. So what I do is when I get off my shift around 12:15, then I'm able to make it to my other church, the other church I used to attend, and hear what the pastor's preaching about. Because in black churches, our services are forever, or hours long. It's like we're sitting in church, and it's like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Well, it's good, but we're in church for a long time. But at this other church I go to, it's not that long, so they give me time. So it's like I have that
Is
balance.
it still black church?
The church I go to is really mixed. We have
Okay,
like,
so it's not quote unquote black church.
No, we have like all different races and different backgrounds. Like I've never seen a church. Like I've always just seen, like growing up, it was either a black church, Latino church, Asian church, white church. It was like I've never seen like a group of mix. But like at our church, we have a lot of different pastors, women and men pastors, all different races, and that's one thing I love. So people are able to connect to, like, the women are able to connect to the women, men are able to connect to the men, or just vice versa. You're able to connect through somebody's story, and that's something I love about Cottonwood.
I think that's a really important part where women are allowed to be pastors, because there are some churches that
don't believe in women pastors.
Yeah, because Jesus Christ was like the head of the church, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so therefore,
some people don't believe in the whole woman pastor. Some churches don't believe that women should preach. Some churches don't believe that women should lead. And so
that's so messed up.
Yeah, so I'm so glad that I'm not at a church that, and I'm glad, even at my Pentecostal church, I'm glad that I didn't have to experience that. It was just the things that I was studying on Google that other churches were doing. I'm like, whoa, I can't imagine being at a church like that. But I'm glad that I have my Pentecostal background and then my non-denomination background. I put them together and learn from both of them.
Definitely. Amazing. Let me check the battery.
Okay. It's like it's not even on.
Nah, it's
on. I was about to say, oh no!
No, we're good.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Let's move on. All right, so this may seem like a heavy loading question.
Okay.
I'm not too sure, but dissect it however you want.
Okay.
What does it mean to be successful for Deonte Towner?
Success to me is, like I said earlier, is doing something that you love to do. Doing something that you can wake up every morning happy about and making money from it. So I'm gonna say this: you have to learn to love something so much that you may not make money the first couple of years from it, because it's just something that you love. You may have to go on a couple of free engagements to sing at, or to rap at, or to play your instrument at, or you got to do some free rounds, because people have to see. And it's sad. People have to see it's worth investing in you. And then as time goes on, you start to realize, oh, I'm making money from something I love. So if every day you wake up in the morning and you can't wait to go to that place, then that's what success is. And like I say, success for some people may be working at McDonald's. Nothing wrong. But I will always say, climb up wherever you're at. Make sure you're climbing up that ladder. Make sure you're the manager of that place. Make sure you want to open your own restaurant one day, or just make sure you're working your way up, so you're continuing growing, and that you're not just stagnant, staying in one place. Because I always say God has so much in store for us, and whatever you work at Walmart, McDonald's, you're a teacher, you're a judge, you're a singer, you're an athlete. He wants you to keep growing and working your way up, because He wants you to reach your fullest ability before you take your last breath.
Do you feel like you're already successful?
It's funny, because I always tell people this: I feel so far ahead, but so far behind at the same time.
What does that mean?
I know that. Like, okay, yeah, I wrote a book. Yeah, I have a lot of followers on social media. Yeah, I'm an influencer. But there's so much more I want to do. I want to, I spoke at Cal State Fullerton. I spoke at Long Beach State. Spoke at Dominguez Hills. But there's so many other things. I want to continue. I want to travel and speak at different colleges about PTSD and trauma in underprivileged communities, and what does that mean in the classroom space. Because it's cool. We have a lot of advocates that say stuff like, we want to stop the school to prison pipeline, but them understanding, I really want to stop the school to prison pipeline, but them really understanding what that means, how much patience that means we have to have with students of color, especially with Black males and Latino males that are always getting suspended at schools. They can be 2% at the all affluent school, and they'll be still the most getting suspended. And why is that? Because some teachers are not getting training on how to approach students of color. Right. And so teaching people that if you're going to advocate for something, making sure that you really understand so that we can make sure that we're not advocating and then also becoming the problem as well.
Definitely, and I totally know what you're talking about, because like there's sometimes where my students are giving me such a crazy headache, and I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. In that moment, I always talk to God and I say, God, please give me the strength to not like do something that I know.
The headlines.
Exactly.
It's hard, and people don't realize is that the pain and the abuse sometimes we go through with students. You know, the name calling, they call us names. I've seen some teachers that have been called names from the parking lot all the way to the end of the day. Like, people don't realize how rough it is for some teachers that have it. I don't have it that rough. I have it rough sometimes, but I don't have it that rough. But it's just sad that they don't realize some of the abuse that the teachers are going through. Because I feel like sometimes we advocate so much for the teachers. No, I mean for the students, that we sometimes forget about the teachers. So what does that mean if you're a teacher and you're getting called this and that and all these what does that mean when you go home? You know, are you able to release that, or are you internally taking all that in? So
that's very important. I found my positive ways. I like to work out. I like to talk. I like to do what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I like to partake in healing circles. And those are the things that I've learned to do throughout the years, to be like, okay, you know what? Today was a hella toxic day. I need to make sure that I take care of myself, because I need to reset tomorrow.
You have to reset.
Right? And another thing that's really helped me, although I don't always do this, is not taking it personal. Right? Like one day I'll have this kid that's just like super cool, super dope, and then the next day they don't even want to shake my hand, right? Or give me dabs, and I'm just like, wow, like that's really mean. But at the same time, you gotta be going through it.
Yeah.
So I gotta realize, like, hey, just let it go. Tomorrow will be a new day.
And it's crazy because that goes off with your personal life too. Is that you learn how to kind of let things go. Like, people are like, how do you have so much patience with people? Do you see the school that I teach at? You learn to have patience with the kids, the adults. You learn how to have patience with a lot of people. So like when somebody says something to me, it doesn't hurt my feelings at all, because it's like when you're getting at the school, at the kids,
you build thick skin.
You build thick skin, and you learn how to come back with the shade and the palm trees, and you learn how to come back with jokes. And people are like, whoa, where did you learn that from? Locke High School in Watts, California. That's where I learned it from.
Right.
And so these kids, as I'm educating them, they're also educating me.
Why'd you choose to teach at Locke? Just for those of you that don't know where Locke is located in Watts, which is actually kind of like a couple miles away from this school. So they are entirely different schools, but at the same time, Deonte and myself are dealing with a very similar style, similar population of kids.
Yeah.
Why Locke?
Well, one thing that drew me to Locke is seeing like graduation rates, or seeing, you know, the history of Locke, how the what happened in the Nickerson Gardens, the LA riots, the Watts riots, looking at the drug abuse in the communities, and how to see this community has so much potential. But also when I listen to a song by Kendrick Lamar, I guess I do listen to rap sometimes, even though we said sometimes I listen to rap. Kendrick Lamar was Good Kid, Mad City, and it was called a song called Sing About Me. And it was,
I love that song.
Yeah, he was talking about all, and this is when I was 20, when I was going through so much, and I was in LA hanging out with my brother, and this was before, my birthday was in February, but then I moved out here in August when school started, and I still kind of had no idea that I was moving to Southern California. And I was listening to Sing About Me, and I was just like, whoa, like, this is what kids in the hood have to experience, like on a daily, like recyclable bodies. And so then I was a substitute teacher. And when I was a substitute teacher in the Paramount district, I remember this kid, he said to me, he says, he was a preschool, not preschool, he was like 3rd grade, and he was like, when I grow up, I want to be just like my brother. And I was like, who's your brother? And then I was like, what does your brother do? He's like, my brother, he fights all the time. Oh, wow, you want to be like that? But that was his influence. And then I met his brother in the middle school, and he was like, when I grow up, I want to be like my older brother. His other brother went to the high school. Well, what does your brother do? Oh, my brother sells drugs. You want to be like that? Yeah, I want to be like that, because all the kids respect him. Then when I go to the high school and I meet the older brother, oh, and I asked the students, every time when I was 7, I was like, I always ask students, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he was like, I want to be like my older brother. What does your older brother do? He's locked up because he didn't snitch to a murder. Oh, so you want to get locked. So just in underprivileged schools in general, knowing that a lot of these kids face that. They face these traumas, they face these cycles of things that their families went through. And sometimes they feel like, I don't want to be this way, but this is all I've seen. And so I wanted to go into those communities to let these students know, like, hey, you know, you can be, I don't care who told you what. I don't care if people have told you you're just going to be like your father, you're going to be like this. I wanted to be that one to plant in the seed and then tell them, no, you're not going to be like that. You're going to break that chain. You're going to break that curse. You're going to be more than what, you know, this world even says. You're not going to even be a statistic. You're going to be the next Latino president. You're going to be the next female, you know, astronaut, whatever. You're going to be more than that. So I want to always plant that seed inside of students in underprivileged communities. And then when I looked at the description at Locke and seeing all the harsh realities those kids go through, and I said, you know what, I want to go into that community. And people were like, even people when I went to Long Beach, they're like, why would you do that? Deonte, you grew up in the valley. Like, you're black, but no, you're not. You're
valley.
Yeah, you're gonna get hurt. And then I'm like, no, I'm going to there. And God told me you're gonna go to Locke. And so I went to Locke. It's hard, but so many students are changing around. So many students are looking at life. So many students that wanted to kill themselves are not gonna kill themselves anymore. Not just because of me, but because as teachers as a whole, we all planted and loved them and came together as a community and helping them see that light.
That's lovely. There was a couple of things that you mentioned, and along the way, there were two things that stood out as far as like what the kids are seeking for. They think that they're looking to sell drugs. They think that they're looking to join a gang. They think that they want to go to Pelican Bay. But really, what they really want is respect and love.
And they want community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if they can get that, whether it be a teacher, a family, a church group, whatever, a community group, we can literally, I don't want to say save, but give them an opportunity to not have to slang and then get caught up in the system.
Right.
And perpetuate the entire thing.
And a lot of these guys that are the big homies in these gangs are trying to tell these kids now, they're coming back to these communities telling them, go to college, get your degree. You know, I've lived this life before. It's a hard life. Because a lot of these, sometimes students, they think it's this glamorous life. But the guys that have been in gangs for years come back to the community and tell them, it's not what it's cracked up to be. Like, you don't want to get shot. And I forgot this guy's name. He was, he's a pillar, he's one of the pillars in the Bay Area, and he's in a wheelchair, and he goes to different schools, and he talked about how he got shot in the back, and now he's paralyzed, and he's telling these different students, do you want to be like this? Because when you're in a gang life, when people start shooting and you start doing all this dangerous activity, you think it's funny, it can cost you your life. Or it can cost you from walking. He says, for the rest of my life, I won't be able to walk. He said, even though I changed my whole life around, look at what happened to me.
Right. That's beautiful. I've actually been in connection with a couple fellas like that. I want to get them into school as well to have those very important conversations because they look similar, right? Yeah. They're like, damn, that looks just like my brother, you know? And so they're able to realize a little bit more, it's more of a real thing. Like, oh crap. Like, in a way, I don't want to say that either because they do have a lot of homies that have already died. So they know it's a reality. Yeah. But sometimes it takes a little different of a perspective, another individual. Yeah. Who knows, right? Like, everyone can reach somebody. And it could be that one kid in class that sees that one person and he's like, whoa.
And sometimes when you're a teenager, you think you're untouchable. You don't ever think nothing's ever gonna happen to you. You know, you think that's their problem, but they don't realize the bullets don't have a name on it, and sometimes they don't have direction. So if that bullet hits you and you die, that's it.
That's it. Okay, so you've met Steve Harvey.
Yes.
Right? First of all, what is it like to meet Steve Harvey?
It was cool because I always watch Family Feud, and so I always see him, and so he's a tall guy, and I never thought that, I don't even know, he's taller than me.
Like 6'3"?
Yeah, like 6'2", 6'3", and he always, one of the things that he always does on his show, on the Family Feud, is that he puts his arm around the contestant, and I never in a million years thought he was going to put his arms around me while I was playing one of his games at the Steve Harvey show, and so that was such a blessing in disguise, because that helped me even more to help my students out with the money and the proceeds that I got from the shop.
So how much money did he give you?
$10,000. So what happened was I made a separate bank account for my education because what I found myself is always taking out my money from my check. And I'm like, man, I'm taking out some money for my students. I don't even have much for my check. So what I start doing is I have a bank account aside, and so I said, you know what, let me make a book. And then I said, first it was like, I'm gonna give 40% of my proceeds to like school supplies for my students, backpacks for my students, different care products that they may need. But then God said, no, give 100% of your proceeds from your book. And I was like, okay, God, I'll do that. I want to help my students out and, you know, help their future. And when they go to college, be able to give scholarships and the money to them. And so then I wrote on my blog about what I do. And then I came out with the book, and then I was on the Steve Harvey show. And now I'm able to send kids off to prom, give money to students when they go off to college, and give them like $100 for, you know, Panda Express, whatever you want to eat. Just different things I'm able to do with the money, and it's so cool. Now I'm able to actually.
And that makes me feel so much better from buying this book. If you're watching this, guys, just realize that this money is not necessarily making him materialistically more wealthy, but it is in a sense making you more spiritually wealthy, which kind of reminds me of, like, I don't know if you ever seen an interview with Bob Marley. But this white guy shows up to his crib and he's like, are you rich, right? And then Bob Marley's like, what do you mean, like, rich, right? And then this guy's like, you have many possessions, you have money in the bank, you have cars, you have houses. And then Bob Marley's like, possessions make you rich?
Right.
And then he says, I'm already rich.
Yeah.
Inside.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm living forever.
Because you can have everything in the world and still be empty and have nothing at the same time.
Definitely, right?
And life is all about, Jesus Christ has taught me that life is all about serving other people. And that's one thing I love about being a teacher, is that I'm able to serve my students and able to serve the staff as well.
Definitely, definitely. I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily like driven by the idea of, like, I guess salvation or heaven or paradise. I think it's more from a practical standpoint.
Just being a good person.
That's it.
Yeah.
And thinking, like, if we have a chance of turning around this sinking boat, which, if I say sinking, that's already defeatist. But what I'm trying to say is that the world is currently shifting a certain way, which seems to be deteriorating. What can I do as a single individual in this hella complex universe? I'm sorry. And I think that is being a teacher, right? For now, and it's kind of like inspiring you to be your best self.
And you're in your ideology to being your best self and being an ethical person and being a good person. You don't realize that you're inspiring so many other students and showing them what does it mean to be a person of color, just being a person and how to conduct. And so you don't realize, you know, when these students are making difficult decisions behind the scenes, and, you know, your true colors show out what you're going to do behind the scenes when nobody's looking, and they're asking, what is Mr. Flores, what would he do in this situation? You don't even realize how many times students probably say that in their head, like, what would he do in this situation? And instead of lying, they're telling the truth, because they knew that you would probably you would tell the truth in that situation. And so you're doing an awesome job. You know, you're inspiring so many other teachers. You're inspiring me to be a better me, and I appreciate you for that.
Straight love, straight
Dr.
love.
Flores.
Okay. Do you feel like you found God, or do you feel like God found you?
I feel like God found me in my mess, in my situations that I were in. He loved me first before I even knew what love was. 'Cause I believe that God is love, and that's why I feel like we should always, you know, love other people and spread that love, because if we say we love God, then we need to exemplify and just loving. And I believe he found me in the midst of, you know, my life when I was having a crisis, when I didn't know who I was getting bullied. In the midst of all that, because when I was getting bullied, my mom says, you know, we can take you to a counselor, take it all these different things, but if you don't know who you are, and that's when God, and my mom said, you need to pray. And when I was praying, God was just pouring into me, like, you're a man of God. You're an example. You're gonna influence so many people one day. You're a positive person. And I'm like, God, but I don't feel this way. I don't feel it. I can't see it. And God was like, that's where your faith comes in. That you got to believe, and even though you don't see it, you got to believe it. And I was like, okay, I will believe it. And then now years later, now I'm like, whoa. Now I see, God, why you allowed me to go through all of these things in order to get to where I'm at. Because if I didn't get bullied, if I didn't get tested in the storm, then I wouldn't be able to connect to my students, or just connect to people, or to collect to all my thousands of followers on social media.
Definitely. Have you ever felt like you are a spirit? Like, what I'm trying to explain is, like, have you ever felt like your body is, how do I explain this? So this one time I was driving, right? And I had this revelation, and it was just like, holy cow, like I'm more than just this.
Yeah.
Like my bones and skin and all of this. Like I felt like my spirit was so much more than what I looked like in that moment. Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah, because I believe that we're all spiritual beings. And even if you don't believe it, we are. And that's why it's so, I always stress the fact it's so important to be careful who you allow in your circle and who you allow in your space, because that person's spirit is going to affect your spirit. And I believe in spiritual transfers, and I would hate for, and that's why you got to be careful who you get involved with. Be careful who you fall in love with. Because, when that person is done with you, you don't realize that you're also fighting off their spirit. Because when you are interacting with somebody, you're picking up things from them, and they're also putting things in you as well. And you have to ask yourself, are they putting in things that validate who I am and my spirit as a person?
Okay. Another thing that I picked up in your book was honesty. Why is honesty so important to you?
Honesty is important to me is because the way, if you're not honest with yourself, you can't be honest with nobody else. And I remember growing up in the church, and when I was a kid, like all these leaders would always try to act so perfect. They always try to act like they had everything together, and they would just always be like, my life is good, blah, blah, blah. And I hated that, because I'm just like, where's the openness? Why aren't you being authentic? And I promised myself when I was 12 years old, I said, when I get older, when I become a leader, I would never be that way. I want to be open. I want to tell people I have issues. I got a lot of issues, and God is working on me. He's not through with me yet. And now that I'm older, I'm able to tell my students, like, I got a lot of stuff going on in my life. God is helping me get through it. I'm going to get to where I need to get to one day. But right now, I'm working through those steps. And when students or just young people or just people as a whole in the world see that you're being open, you're being transparent, and you're being genuine, and you're being real, I feel like that's when people respect you even more. Even people that don't even like you, they have to respect you because you're laying it all on the line. Like, you can't tell me something I have not told you already, because I'm open. Because when I die, when I take my last breath, I want people to learn from my story. Because I'm like, what's the use of going through all this if I'm not going to tell nobody what I've been through? Right. Why am I going to hold it in? God allowed me to go through all this to share with the world. Even I don't care how embarrassing your story is. God will show you who to share that story with, because not everybody is mature enough to share that story. With.
And that's so powerful, bro. And that's a whole other part of the show. And it's just like, I was like, you know what? I have so much to share with the world, and I know so many people that have so much to share with the world. And what if we can just go ahead and put that in the internet and have possibly maybe one day thousands of people watch it, so that they can learn and just feel like they're not alone in the world, and that they've also lived and experienced, that others have lived and experienced things so much similar to them. So there's one part of the internet that's just absolutely horrendous. Just, it's like the opposite of what we want to inspire in the world. And it's so triggering. And it's probably, I would say, currently dominating the internet. In fact, there's a lot of research out that there's many algorithms through Facebook, through YouTube, through Instagram, and all these different forms of social media that are pushing us to click on things that are designed to drive us mad. Because mad and anger is one of the main components of making things viral. Because it's such a aroused state of being. And so there's a lot of people that are profitizing off of us being mad at each other and creating larger divisions. So that's a whole part of the internet that's going on currently right now. In fact, a lot of the people that have power are doing that. So you and I, we're trying to throw a little dice in there of just love and happiness and positivity. Even if you may be watching this and you think like, dude, you're full of BS. Maybe to a degree I am, but at the same time, you can't really like hate on me for trying my best to be like, yo, man, just here you go. Here's a quarter. Figure it out.
And it's sad because the internet has become so toxic to where you trying to spread love and peace and light, it's become corny. Like, why would you do that? That's not cool. And you're just like, when did showing people love become corny? When did you saying to somebody, something positive on social media and they say F you? Why do I get an F you? I just try to say something nice and positive to you. And that's why I always tell people this. If you're going to be on the internet, you have to make sure you take care of your mental space. Because I'm a positive person on social media. I like to talk about my feelings and just, what I'm experiencing in life at that same time. You're going to get a few trolls that come in at you, like literally at you on Twitter and say something mean about you. But you have to learn, You have the power to log in and you have the power to log off. You have the power to block and you have the power to unfriend. If you can't handle social media, you have the power to disconnect. Nobody's saying you have to stay connected. But I think that's the sad part, is that we feel like in order to be connected to the world, we have to stay plugged in. And plugging in until we either commit suicide or we have to be checked into a mental hospital, because we're becoming, and that's why I say you have to have that balance. You have to know who you are as a person. And I can only imagine how hard it is for parents that have kids that go on social media. Because when you're a teenager and you're 12, 13, 14, 15, you're still struggling with, even in your early 20s, you're still struggling with your identity, and then going on social media and having people slam each other, especially on Twitter, slamming each other and people talking about each other. That can get overwhelming at times. And you have to have a balance.
Most definitely. Another part of the show is being able to provide a practical value or virtue that, leaving our show today, the young one can say, like, I can utilize what Deonte taught me to do today, and I can become a better person. What is that one virtue or value that you would love to share with our audience?
So I was going to say you have the power to change the world, don't let the world change you. But this is what I tell myself every morning. I say to myself, I always say, one positive thought in the morning or throughout your day can change the outcome of your day. And speaking words of affirmation to yourself, telling yourself who you are, and not speaking those negative thoughts. The more positive things you tell yourself, the more that those negative voices just begin to spread away. And if also you keep on reminding yourself of all the things that God has blessed you with, your problems, your troubles, the things that are just bothering you and making you lose sleep at night, it becomes small. So when you're building up all your blessings, all the things that God is blessing you with, your troubles are just going down, and your anxiety level is going down, and you're just building up, and then you're going to sleep with a smile on your face because you're taking control of your life. Don't let anybody or whatever nobody says take control. You have more control than you think, and more power.
Beautifully put and said. Where can people find the book?
You can purchase the book, Peace in the Dark, Turn the Light On Amazon. All you got to do is type it in, Peace in the Dark. Or you can find a link on my Instagram and Twitter at Deonte Towner, at DeonteTowner. Mention me for a follow back, and I got you.
Thank you very much for showing up
so much
today. It was so amazing. I hope that we can stay and connect. Definitely, we need to go hiking.
And we need
you're
to
a
eat
hiker
too.
type guy.
Yes.
And get some food.
Yes.
And just continue to connect, inspire people, meet more people, network, do all the good stuff in life. And you're an amazing guy. I'm so blessed to have you here today.
And I want to say thank you again for letting me to be on your show, and I can't wait to see all the other beautiful people that God allows you to, broadcast. And I can't wait till you're broadcasting all these celebrities as well. He's going to go far in life, so you better get on this show now before he makes it international, traveling around on CNN and all these news channels. So I'm excited for your future.
Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.